This episode is made possible by NetSuite by Oracle and Brex, the AI-powered spend platform.
Hi, this is Joel Campbell, CFO of TreviPay, and you're listening to the CFO Thought Leader Podcast.
This is episode 1027.
The oil and gas industry experience with commodity risk, just like oil, Bitcoin is a commodity as well. And I call Bitcoin as oil on steroids. It fluctuates more than oil, so the beta is much higher. But in summary, the risk profile of a high, volatile industry with capital intensity that you need to invest in your machines and data centers versus oil and gas wells, there are lots of similarities to that. And so balance sheet management, risk management, operational know-how, and thinking through complex country and country risk environments, if you like, all those things come into play in this industry as well for a global company like Marathon that you would expect in a sophisticated oil and gas or energy company.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's episode, we speak with Salman Khan, CFO of Marathon Holdings. When Salman Khan arrived in Dubai from the U.S. in the early 2000s, he was a seasoned auditor with PricewaterhouseCoopers, ready to narrow his focus on the oil and gas industry. If someone had told him then that he would one day be the CFO of the world's largest Bitcoin mining company, Khan would have undoubtedly replied, "What? Mining company?" At the time, digital assets were a distant concept, and Khan's world revolved around the complexities of regulations and international finance. What a difference 20 years can make. And then again, maybe not. You'll hear that story and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this. CFOs and controllers, does expense management feel like a necessary evil? It's time to switch to Brex. Brex automates and accelerates spend management with easy-to-use corporate cards, travel, expense management, and bill pay, all on one AI-powered platform. Brex makes it easy to boost efficiency and compliance enterprise-wide and free up your managers, employees, and accounting team for higher impact work. Top companies from startups to enterprises are using Brex to automate manual work and transform their finance operations. We're talking DoorDash, Robinhood, Airtable, and countless other industry leaders. Ready to join them? Switch to AI-powered spend management at Brex.com. Hello, we're speaking to Salman Khan, CFO of Marathon Digital. Salman, welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here today.
Yeah, so as always, this company is very intriguing. So many of us are curious about your part of the world. We'll get to that. Right now, we're going to ask you to look back, far back for us, and share a little bit about some of the experiences you feel that prepared you for this role, Salman. What would come to mind?
That's a very loaded question. And there's so many stories that come to my mind. My career started in the trenches. I started with Arthur Andersen. Many people don't recognize that name today. And spent about 8 years in public accounting, doing accounting and consulting advisory work. Back in those days, advisory work was acceptable. And lived in different countries and experienced different industries and clients, and realized that I needed to learn more about the finance world, and ended up joining petroleum industry, oil and gas, wore multiple hats there. And every point in time in my career was very interesting because I thought that I was hitting a roadblock. There were setbacks. There were times where I felt that, hey, this is the end of my career. I'm going to retire at this position. But the urge to achieve something big, think strategically, network with people who will elevate you, and people who are willing to sit down with you and share their experiences, sort of mentor you. All those things and being there at the right time in the right moments certainly helped me hone in those skills. So fast forward, if I have to look back, I've worn different multiple hats, be it in the trenches of accounting, looking at regulations, SEC rules, looking at becoming a CFO, a business unit CFO of a small startup in a large public corporation like Occidental Petroleum, and then scaling it up from $5 million in revenues to $5 billion in revenues over a period of 5 years. So think about the growth that comes with that. Organic growth and M&A, lots of acquisitions and integrations along the way. And then going out and wearing multiple hats, even within the same organization, and IPOing a significant business unit, which is called a spinoff, which is now called a separate publicly traded company called California Resources. All those things brought in a different level of expertise that I did not have. I did not have those expertise, but there was somebody out there who trusted my skills, who trusted that this guy will come in and excel and learn along the way and produce results. To give you an example, at California Resources, I got the opportunity to work in an M&A role, pure M&A financial analysis, and helping the COO of the company to execute very significant M&A opportunities in a transformative environment. And that was something that I did not know as a kid growing up, but as part of the growth process that helped me drive those skills. Fast forward that to Marathon Digital. Marathon is the largest Bitcoin mining company in the world. We operate globally across the world, and we have operations here in the United States, internationally. We are growing consistently. Last year, we tripled ourselves. This year, we are expecting to double ourselves, and the growth story continues there.
Well, thank you for the overview. Again, you did the public accounting tour of duty. You really invested a number of years there. You are an elite accountant. When you leave, you step into an industry role. What's the nature of the accounting that you, at that place in time, like to stick your teeth into? Are you more a technical accountant? How would you characterize yourself?
That's a great question. You can call me jack of all trades at this stage, but at that point in time, I was a hardcore auditor and an accountant. And very deep into the details, very knowledgeable about the GAAP and FASBs and SEC rules and SKs and SXs, public company space in particular, and very large companies as clients or pre-IPO type companies.
Tell us something about Oxy. I know this is a company that you worked with for over 8 years, and you really climbed the ladder, the accounting ladder there. This is a sizable company. Tell us what it was like stepping into that environment.
Yeah, so Occidental back then was a traditional oil and gas company, and you really needed to have a significant amount of experience to be considered. We used to joke about it. You need to have gray hair in order to be considered in a leadership position. And it was a global oil and gas company with footprint across the world.
Had you audited energy companies while in public accounting? Is that
Yes.
how you kind of made the segue there?
Yeah. So back my stint with PwC in Dubai or United Arab Emirates, that really exposed me to the oil and gas industry. So
how long was that for? Was that a year or what was that?
That was about 5 years. 5 years. So that was the time when IFRS was being adopted in Europe and Australia, and some really hardcore stuff that came into play. But
did you raise your hand for that, or were you sought out or recruited, or a partner said you're going? How did that happen?
No, it was something that I wanted to do. It was a growing place. Dubai was growing exponentially at that time, and there was a need for lots of companies were moving their corporate headquarters or regional corporate headquarters in that region. and it was the place to be in that region. So I had a great time, learned a lot along the way. But fast forward that to today, the Occidental experience that you were talking about, every step along the way, post Big Four accounting firm was, first of all, it was a learning curve. It was when you're in a client setting, you learn so many things, how to please a client and serve the client, all that stuff that comes along with it, which is a skill that you take with yourself across throughout your career. But when it comes to joining the industry, it's a different ballgame. You need to learn the trick of the trade, really understand the business, what kind of business you're joining, and what are the risks involved in the business, and how can you excel, and how can you think strategically. Because at times, as an auditor or consultant, you're as an outsider, and now you're an insider. You need to be there to be making decisions on a day-to-day basis, and that's where collaboration with cross-functional teams and being able to articulate your thoughts clearly is a key driver for that. And sometimes that can be hard.
8 years at Occidental, then you go to California Resources Corporation for over 6.5 years. What are the types of opportunities did California Resources Corp bring you?
Yeah, so if you think about Occidental Petroleum, that was at that time $70-80 billion company, and a global company. Got the opportunity to wear multiple hats, did different things, learned along the way. And the business unit that I was controller slash CFO for at Occidental, that grew so much that the company decided to IPO that, or spin off. So I got the opportunity to lead that spin off from finance side, and that became California Resources. And California Resources became an independent publicly traded company separate from Occidental. And I got the opportunity to stay back at California Resources and take an M&A role, M&A commercial role, if you like. Evaluating transactions, financial modeling, negotiating transactions, trying to finalize term sheets, working with lawyers across the board, and really getting to the finish line that the transactions that are accretive to the company. So very transaction oriented, strategic in nature, working with the top leadership or top brass, if you like, the CEO, the COO, the CFO of the company, and trying to drive that strategic vision for the company. As I spent 3 years doing that, learned a lot of things along the way. I thought I knew a lot from my previous experiences, but this was a steep learning curve, candidly speaking. The ESG initiative was becoming an important aspect in public company space, specifically in oil and gas industry. And the CEO and the board of directors decided that we needed to have an energy transition space business unit. So I was nominated to help establish that, and again brought in cross-functional folks. This is a pure operational, non-accounting finance. Raised a few $1 billion with transactions like solar, wind, geothermal, and those energy sources that were renewable in nature, that would help address the ESG component and energy transition component for the company. It was very exciting. It was very different. It was the finance skills, the accounting skills, all those skills came into play, but this tested my skills at a different level. And just as a reminder, growing up, I was an introverted person always. I was a shy, sitting in the corner. You could see me sitting in the corner quietly. Nobody would know that Salman is sitting in the room. And I got this advice from my mentors in the beginning of my career, that if you want to be an effective leader in a public company environment, whether it be CFO or whatever, you need to think strategically, really decipher the details, be on top of that, and be collaborative, and be influential in the sense that articulate your thoughts and pick the clues in the room very quickly, and get running with the marching orders, which may not be what you like that the company to do. So have some intelligence in picking up the cues or the clues in the room, if you like, and go with the marching orders.
Just just given the venture you just described to us, and how interesting and unique that experience was, that you remain fairly specialized. I mean, and not in a bad way. It would seem like you would be a very attractive candidate to step into a lot of spin-offs or ventures and make a lot of money. The CFO office, though, is that on your radar yet? I mean, is it something that suddenly appeals to you along the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was growing up in the trenches years ago, I was a trained accountant, and along the way, Occidental sponsored me for my MBA with University of Michigan, which I feel very blessed about. It was rated number one in the world by Wall Street Journal at that time. Got the opportunity to spend quality time there, learn a lot of strategic thought processes there, and my eyes were always, my core strength always was in finance. And I had taken detours along the way, learning different things in businesses and how to establish businesses and do strategic transactions. And all those things helped me hone in these skills that you really need in a public company CFO. When you step into the CFO role in a public company setting, it can be a very lonely experience because you are there amongst the strategic leaders, the C-suite, and you're a partner with the CEO and the chairman, and then you are also accountable and talking to the board of directors and the external parties, the stakeholders, the shareholders. So a lot is demanded from this role. And if you don't prepare yourself for that role along the way, the chance of failure is pretty high. And you'd rather fail initially in your career while learning, going through these learning experiences and sort of going back to the longevity of the career that you mentioned at Occidental and California Resources. That really provided me the tempo and the momentum and the stability and the honing of the skills that you need, because every year I was learning something new there. Every 2 years, 3 years, there was a different role for me to do. So I call them like a university type organizations where you go and rotate every few years and learn new things. All those things really helped me. And frankly, I was blessed with people who are around me who picked and chose me for those opportunities that have really helped me to do what I'm doing here at Marathon.
I'm wondering, when you do decide to consider opportunities, is it through your network or a recruiter that you first step into a CFO role? How does it happen exactly?
So my first CFO role was in a small microcap technology company, software as a service, e-commerce, publicly traded. So it had all sorts of nuances that a public company CFO would have, but in a much more smaller size component, if you like. And the challenges there are different from a capital raise perspective and managing expectations perspective. That opportunity arose through relationships, and somebody whom I had worked with previously at Occidental ended up working for this company, and they connected me with the CEO and the board, and that started the conversation. Essentially.
Excellent. Were you an interim CFO at first, or did you step right into the role?
Yeah, so the understanding was that I will be the CFO, except that there was a sitting CFO there already, and there was a transition to happen. So I joined as an EVP of corporate development initially, and focused on M&A. And within a few months, it was converted into interim CFO, and right thereafter, it was a full-time CFO.
Yeah, we always like to highlight that just because I think that's the case of so many, and it's not always clear that it was, but very often that is the case, and it demonstrates the savvy and the finesse that sometimes stepping into those roles require. Mentioned Marathon already to us several times. Whetted our appetites. When you explained to us about Marathon Digital Holdings, how did you come upon the opportunity as well? Give us a little detail as to, well, when I first heard about this. Tell us about Marathon Digital Holdings. What is this company about?
Marathon is the world's largest Bitcoin mining company. It's publicly traded, and it's the largest in the pack, if you like. There are a handful of public companies out there that are focused in this area. We are a truly global company with operations in multiple countries in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, and South America, and here in the United States. And we continue to expand. We've grown tremendously over the last few years, and we continue to deploy capital and grow responsibly from here as well. And as you know, there's a lot of tailwind in this industry just in the last few months. I got the opportunity to advocate for this industry on the political aspect as well, meeting former President Donald Trump a few weeks ago. And that transpired into his campaign taking this, that was part of an industry advocacy group, taking this as a key component for his campaign this time around. If you think about it, there are more than 40 million Americans who own cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in specific. And most of them are within the age of 25 to 45 years of age, which means that those are prime voting targets for any presidential candidate. Since then, two presidential candidates have come up and provided their policy around Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, just like oil, just like gold, on the balance sheet of the United States of America, because this asset is very unique in the sense that it's highly accretive. It has accreted over the last 5, 7, 8 years at a rate that you cannot compare to other asset classes. And it is expected to accrete further from here, primarily because of the limited capacity that's available out there. I come from oil and gas industry. You have to think about oil resource is limited out there, but every few years you have ExxonMobil or Chevron or Saudi Aramco going out and having huge discoveries of oil or natural gas. In this case, you cannot have those discoveries. Digital asset is limited by the protocol, and nobody can change that the way it has been designed. So 21 million coins need to be mined over the life of the asset, and out of those 20 million have already been mined. So the race is for the remainder of the million coins. And this is why you're seeing people like BlackRock, Fidelity, and others really buying the story into this space. And as a result of that, there's a significant amount of tailwind in this sector, which is expected to drive significant growth in this space.
You mentioned already, you had an earlier CFO tour of duty in the SaaS space. Is it the oil and gas world that perhaps prepared you for some of the challenges here, or the unique way of looking at the world more broadly? Or yeah,
Great question. And when you think about this, when I was considering this opportunity, by the way, this opportunity popped up through a retained search. And I was right at the timing really worked for me because Verb Technology, the previous public company that I was part of, I ended up selling the majority of the assets for that company to private equity. So I kind of signed off myself out of the job myself. And the opportunity timing was very well timed for myself. As I evaluated this opportunity, the oil and gas industry experience with commodity risk, just like oil, Bitcoin is a commodity as well. And I call Bitcoin as oil on steroids. It fluctuates more than oil, so the beta is much higher. But at the same time, there are lots of differences between oil and digital assets, which I can talk for hours. But in summary, the risk profile of a high volatile industry with capital intensivity that you need to invest in your machines and data centers versus oil and gas wells. There are lots of similarities to that. And so balance sheet management, risk management, operational know-how, and thinking through complex country and country risk environments, if you like, all those things come into play in this industry as well for a global company like Marathon that you would expect in a sophisticated oil and gas or energy company.
As a CFO, again, you have a point of comparison. This is how I spent my day at Verb versus today I spend my day a little differently. It would be great to understand better how, as a CFO, what are the priorities for you during the course of the week? Who are you connecting with? What numbers or metrics are you watching very closely versus that other CFO from only a few years ago?
Yeah, it's very different. This role is obviously the role at Verb really helped hone different level of skills that I did not have previously, or enhance those skills, if you like. In a smaller public company, you really need to pull up your sleeves and dive down into the details and watch your cash flows and working capital on a daily basis, because that's the need of the hour for that company, right? Whereas in a well capitalized larger company, yes, those are important matrices, but my role and responsibilities in this company is much more expanded than that. So I have corporate development responsibility, like mergers and acquisitions, which can be a full time job by itself. You've got investor relations. The general counsel reports into this role, so legal group, and then we've got $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin on our balance sheet, which is the second largest Bitcoin holding in the world in a corporate setting, and we have to manage that. So that team reports into me, like treasury, FP&A, basic accounting, all those things come into play. And then the information technology group as well comes into play here. So all in all, when I think about this is a lot more strategic, much more high level, focused on driving the organization to the next growth level as we grow from here, and making sure that we build the right leadership and create that bench of leaders. Because throughout my career, I have thought about surrounding myself with very, very smart people. And that has paid dividends for me because that brings the best out of you. So the leadership team that we've been able to build in the company here and people underneath them, some of them were already there, very smart people. And then there are other people that we've hired along the way with the growth. And that has taken us to a completely different level from a sophistication perspective.
Now, I can't stop thinking of that introvert that you told us about, because that person's not anywhere in sight today, given the responsibilities of telling the story, educating the investors and the industry analysts. It's got to be, the biggest part of this job. Am I overstating that? Or how do you, when you think about your responsibilities on the IR side, and I'm sure you have professionals on your team who assist you there, but they want to hear from you.
This is a very different industry in the sense that there's a lot of education involved here, because when you say Bitcoin, not everyone understands what that means. When you talk about cryptography and cryptocurrency, different negative thoughts come to your mind because that's what we've heard through media in the last few years. And there have been, frankly, some bad players in the past in the space that have washed with the passage of time as this industry has evolved. But as you rightly said, the investor relations and talking to investors, part of it is education. So, for example, this is not only a technology play from a cryptocurrency standpoint, it is also an energy play, because there are data centers, there's interconnect. There's also, for example, let me give you an example of Texas. We have operations in Texas. As the freeze happened back in January in Texas, we were there shutting down our data centers because cryptocurrencies, and in particular Bitcoin, can be shut down in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, versus an AI data center that has to continue to operate. So for example, if you have Tesla and you're driving your Tesla on self-driving mode, you don't want to be in a situation, sorry, there's an electricity outage, I can't direct your driving anymore. Or Netflix watching a movie and suddenly it stopped streaming on your TV. That would be a really bad experience as a customer. In this case, because of the nature of solving the problem algorithm with very heavy miners, or as we call them, the machines, you can shut them down and then start back and take the baton from where you left off. And that's a unique nature for us, which we're very proud of, and it creates that intermittency of the power and the usage in places where there's a need for electricity to shut down or slow down at the time when there are emergency situations or and things like that.
Since you arrived, is there part of the story that you thought needed greater clarity? And again, in the short time we've talked to each other, I get a sense that you were someone from, and you shared this with us early on, you could help tell the story or understood how to explain things in a rational and careful way. How am I doing? Am I close? And I'm wondering if there was a particular number or some way of looking at the world that you said we need to be telling this differently or bring greater clarity to it. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, look, a great example that comes to my mind is transformation within the company, for example. This company was established a few years ago. The founders decided to raise a bunch of capital and invested in machines for Bitcoin mining and rented space with third-party data centers instead of building their own. So it was speed to revenue, if you like. And as a result of that, Marathon grew so quickly, but it was renting spaces. As I joined the company, 95 to 99% of our assets were on a rented space. I come from heavy industry background, and the company was already considering this. But with my heavy industry background experience, we started challenging ourselves internally as to whether this is the right strategy for us or not. With my M&A background, we started picking up on transactions that were important for the company. So we bought almost 700 megawatts of operational capacity data centers earlier this year. And we bought them, we paid cents to the dollar because there were specific market conditions that since then have gone up significantly, where the construction cost is $1.5 million, $1 million to $1.5 million, and you build it and it takes time, 2 to 3 years. Now you have bought these operational sites under $500,000 per megawatt. So that was a transformational experience for the company, where engaging with the CEO and talking with the board and talking with the key stakeholders within the company and driving that in the right direction. All those things require your thoughts to be articulate. You need to drive the decision based on data. And many times data is not there. Most of the times when you are making decisions, the data is either missing or not everything exists. And that's where you need to articulate your thoughts in a methodical manner, have meaningful conversations, and there will be opposing views. Respectfully discuss those and try to come to a conclusion that is best for the stockholders for the company.
I want to touch on AI with you. And again, this is a very broad topic. Largely what we've been talking to finance leaders about are the use of large language models. Does generative AI intersect with your world?
Yeah, so Bitcoin mining is different than the only thing that's common with LLMs or AI or HPC for us is the interconnect or the electricity source. That is the only common thing that we have. Yes, we call them data centers on the Bitcoin mining side as well, but the configuration of the data centers, the kind of machines that you put there, the operations, the need for water for AI is much more than data centers on this side. For example, we don't use any water on the Bitcoin mining side with the configuration that we have. And then the power that you need baseload electricity on the AI side. You cannot have shutdown of your services. On this side, you can have intermittent power like solar, wind, and tag it along with the providers, local providers, essentially. So when we think about the structure from outside, it may look very similar, but they are very different. The way AI comes into play for us is that we can exist side by side with AI on the same interconnect, for example, or we could, because that provides the flexibility of the load of electricity, because AI is heavy on electricity, whereas we can be the balancing factor and balance the utility on the other side, or the regional authorities, if you like. So That's one aspect. The other aspect from our side is that we have technology that we've built to run data centers that can be very useful for AI. So we have cooling technology that our scientists have built in-house, and we've tested that in very difficult environments, which those can be used for cooling miners and GPUs on the AI side. And that can be a very interesting play from an AI perspective.
In the case of EVs, the EV market, the political climate in some ways has made the EV story a more complex one.
It's bifurcated. The opportunity in some, one side to the other. It's hard to is it the same opportunity?
It's no longer just one story, but two stories.
Is there a risk with the political climate to be, to be identified with one side or the other in what is already
an industry, as we've been discussing, that is sometimes misunderstood and in need of greater clarity?
Well, it's the way to think about it is that Bitcoin is an asset class. You have very sophisticated people, very smart people who are investing in this space heavily, including BlackRock, Fidelities, and of the world. And it's being adopted by sovereign nations overseas. UAE, for example, we've partnered with them and created data centers there. Countries are investing in this space because they see the value for Bitcoin and the future for this. The question becomes, is this political or not? From our perspective, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's an asset, and it's for everybody, and it's for everybody to benefit from it. Whether it's Democrats, Republicans, or somebody else, doesn't matter. What we have experienced, though, is under Biden administration, a very difficult environment to operate under. And SEC has been very tough on this space, and that is something that is a scar for this industry that we hope and we've offered to engage with both sides. We've offered to engage with all the presidential candidates, and we're hoping that everyone will come to the same conclusion that this is beyond party limits. It's a bipartisan issue.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to jump to our finance strategic moment. Would that be okay? Let's jump there. We'd love to have you share a finance strategic moment. Again, this might have happened any time in your career, but it's a moment of insight that you've had along the way that reveals how finance plays a strategic role. I'm sure you've had 3 of these already today, but what would you like to share with us?
Well, so many ideas racing around my mind in terms of strategic. CFO's position is in the middle of the company's strategy. So when you think about execution, I talk to our CEO chairman multiple times during the day. We have our conversations, whether it's we're on the same page or not, but we come to the conclusion and we drive the results together, right? So it's a partnership. And then the example that comes to my mind is the company's decision to buy Bitcoin and hold it on the balance sheet, and that is a very non-traditional financial decision, if you like. If you go to the financial books, you don't want to have too much cash on the balance sheet. You want to reinvest that, or if you don't have investments left, you want to give back dividends to your shareholders. This is a growing industry, and we don't intend to return the capital because, as dividend at least, because the investments are going to return much better rate of return to our stockholders. So the question arises: why hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet? We've got $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And the thought process there is that this asset class has been returning such a huge rate of return over the last few years. For example, last year it was up 150%. Last couple of 4 or 5 years, if you pick it up, it's been north of 100% rate of return. In some cases, 200 to 300% rate of returns, depending on the time period you pick up. And because of the nature of the limited capacity and the demand and the tailwinds that exist in this space at this stage, we believe that this is going to be a value driver significantly for the company from a long-term perspective. So holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet as a traditional CFO coming from oil and gas industry was a learning curve for me. It was a learning experience for me because oil and gas companies would never hold oil on their balance sheet. They'll sell as quickly as possible. But then when you think about it, it's a physical commodity. You have to find physical places to hold it. In this case, this is a digital asset. It can be sitting on a secured wallet, and there's no additional fee to hold that on those wallets. So, from our perspective, I think that's a transformative decision for the company that affects the CFO organization, because the CFOs make these kind of financial decisions, and it's not an easy decision to make. But at the same time, we see a lot of value coming out of this decision from a long-term perspective.
$37,025.1. These are the three numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, you should get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system and with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/KPI. That's netsuite.com/KPI.
Okay. Nice. We're going to jump to our mentoring round where we'll ask you several quick questions intended to inform and inspire future finance leaders. We want to begin by asking you about that first 60 days that you were a CFO. So it might have been the earlier CFO chapter at Verb, I guess, but you stepped into the role, and with all the experience you already had, there was something you didn't know. Something, if you could go back in time, you might tell yourself. Again, the role of the CFO, and again, I remember that was an interim role, as you explained to us. But think about when you finally did step into and were the CFO. What is it that you wish, one piece of advice, you knew so much, but then it's like, oh, is this part of it? Oh.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. If I have to go back and look back during that period of time, I would say that having the courage to say no and having the courage to speak up at the time when you don't believe in something is very important. And at times when you are the first time CFO, you want to be acceptable, you want to fit in, and you want to be likable. You can still achieve that respectfully. And frankly speaking, the fiduciary responsibility that the board has set and the shareholders has set on this role dictates that you speak up when nobody is willing to speak up. And that to me is very powerful, because the CFO role is an important component of the public company setup. So if I have to go back and think a little bit more about my first time CFO gig, I would say feedback to my own self would be a little bit more confident and stand up for the right things.
Excellent. We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little bit on the personal side. Salman, what is something that most people don't know about you? And again, you lived in Dubai for quite a stint. I mean, you've lived in different parts of the world. You've had these really interesting finance roles, but there's something most of your colleagues probably didn't know. Anything?
Well, I'm a family person, and I love my family and kids, and I've got 3 kids, beautiful kids who've grown up now, and youngest is 13, oldest is 21. and seeing them grow over the years has been a fascinating experience as a dad, while being a very busy professional. It's My wife has been very collaborative, and I'm very thankful to her for being there, because without her collaboration with me and helping me when there was a need at work for me to work long hours and travel a lot, she was there to take care of things that I should have taken care of. So I'm very appreciative of my spouse, because without a good spouse, it's very difficult for you to be successful or you can be successful. It's just going to be a very difficult journey along the way.
Nice. Would you have a book recommendation for us? Doesn't have to be a business book. Maybe it's something you escape with, or how about a podcast? I don't know, a resource perhaps.
Yeah, one book that comes to my mind, and Marshall Goldsmith, I'm very impressed with him, and he was my mentor at University of Michigan. It's called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and it's a great book for people in the space to read and understand, especially for folks who are starting their careers and have had some successes. The successes and the tools that you've used today or yesterday won't get you to the next level. So you really have to develop your skills and work on that.
Okay, nice one for us. We've had it before, but it's been a while, so thank you for highlighting it once again. Hey, we're up to our final question. We've enjoyed our talk. Thank you so far for the time. This is when we're going to ask you to look forward finally, and we want to know what your priorities are over the next 12 months.
The priorities are, it's a growing organization that I'm part of. It's a group of very talented and humble people, and to be able to grow from here, there's a lot of exciting things coming out. We joke about this. That 1 year in Mara terms is like 10 years, because although we are the largest publicly traded company in this space, well, we're still a startup. It feels like a startup. And from a longevity standpoint, building the next leaders in this space and attracting the talent that will drive the company to the growth to the next level, I think that's going to be key for us. We're in a technology space, the cusp of technology and energy, and multiple macroeconomic indicators would impact this industry. But what we can do is what is best for ourselves, is controllable things for us. And that is execution, deploying capital efficiently, and telling our story and hiring the right people who will make us much more smarter.
Salman Khan, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Hello, listeners. Jack here. I hope you've been enjoying some of our recent CFO Thought Leader episodes. To better serve you, we need your feedback. And our 2024 listener survey is now live. What do you like about CFO Thought Leader? What don't you like about CFO Thought Leader? This is what we call continuous improvement. We want to serve you better, but we can only do that by hearing from you. You'll find our 2024 survey right on the nav bar at cfothoughtleader.com. To demonstrate our gratitude, survey takers will receive a $10 savings coupon on the purchase of our new book, The CFO 500. Take the survey and the coupon is yours. Please help us serve you better. And as always, thank you for listening.